I have been a follower of Jesus for nearly all my life. I have not been very good at it the whole time, but I've tried. Being a disciplined Christian, follower of Christ, is hard on this planet. Think about this. We're supposed to live a life with Jesus as the example that includes not lying, cheating, or stealing. It also includes not lusting after other humans or hating your brother. Don't even let it enter in your mind. It includes taking care of widows and the poor and studying all that's good, righteous, and beneficial for the glory of God. And that's just a few things. Now, it would be much easier if we weren't completely surrounded by so many people that's not even trying to do any of those things. Being a Christian is easy when we're alone, but we get tested when we're around people. So, for somebody like me, who's tried and failed more times than I can count, I'm going to answer one question today. What does discipline actually look like for a Christian living in a world that's constantly pulling us in the opposite direction? And I'm going to answer it from a specific place. You see, I've spent 35 years as a martial arts instructor building discipline, personal protection in students. I'm going to use the same lens, discipline and protection. I'm just going to aim it at something other than punches and kicks. So, let's go. Now, whenever you learn something new, you have to learn the vocabulary. Since we already know that Christian is a follower of Christ, we need to look a little deeper at the word discipline. There's lots of confusion about what it means. Let me explain. Now, martial arts is known for being good for teaching discipline. I had to learn all about it because people kept coming into my school and telling me they wanted discipline. I had to look it up and see how it actually applied to martial arts training. I was surprised at what it actually meant. I thought it was kind of funny. I thought, surely I'm not the only one that doesn't know what it means. So I went around asking everybody what they thought it meant. I asked my students, I asked the parents, teachers that came into the school, coaches, other instructors. I asked everybody. Now, they'd give me examples or metaphors to explain it, but almost nobody could actually define it. And defining it was only one issue. I was expected to teach it. So here's what I found. The word discipline comes from the Latin word discipulus. It means to learn, to be taught, or a follower of. Now, most people hear the word discipline and they think it has something to do with punishment or suffering through something that you hate, but that's not where it started. Discipulus means to learn or be taught, and that turned into disciple, which means a follower of, and that turned into discipline. Now you know what the word means, and most people stop right there, but we're not gonna. Now, knowing the definition and understanding how it applies to you are two different things. Think about this. To learn or be taught, okay, you got it. But most people take that at face value and then move on. But if discipline means to be taught or to learn, that raises a few real questions, like taught what? By whom? What's the motive or the purpose of the information? So there has to be a trusted authority, there has to be useful information, and the information has to serve a purpose. Three things every discipline actually requires, whether you've ever thought about it or not. And here's a little side note. Discipline means to learn or be taught, and self-discipline means it's specific to you because you're the one that has to test it. You may even have to reword the information you get in your own mind just so you can understand it, then figure out how it actually applies to your life. Because every life is different, every body is different, every circumstance is different. But notice, I just walked you through all that and I still haven't told you who the teacher actually is, what the information actually is, or what it's actually for. That's not an accident. Before anything else in this video makes sense, you have to answer those three questions first. Who's the authority, what's the information, and what's it for? Okay. You know what the word means. Now let's look at three possible authorities. And I want you to pick the one that you listen to the most. Now here's the way that I see it. There are three possible ultimate authorities over your life. Three possible teachers. Each one has a will. Each one is fighting for control over the lessons that you're going to learn while you struggle through this world. Let's start with feelings as your possible authority. The information feelings give you is real, but they're also the easiest to misread because feelings attach meaning to an experience before you have any facts. Here's something I know about humans. Negative emotions just happen. Positive emotions have to be chosen, which means most people default toward the negative, like anger, nervousness, fear. all of those without even trying to. I'll give you an example. One time a boss called me and said he wanted to meet. My emotions went crazy before I even hung up the phone. Well, is he firing me? Is he cutting my pay? Did a parent complain about something I said to their kid? Totally plausible. When I actually met with him, he just wanted my opinion on a curriculum and asked if I'd write a new one closer to how I actually teach. None of those emotions of fear and nervousness was useful information. It was just noise generated before I had a single fact. That's when I noticed that my emotions showed up before the experience did, not after. So what's the purpose of information like that? I think it's protection, bracing you for the worst possible thing before it happens so you're never caught off guard. The problem is it braces you whether the worst actually happens or not. It can't tell the difference. It just runs every time on everything, whether there's a real threat or not. So now when something happens like that, I stay calm and I ask a different question. What's the actual information that I have? Well, let's see. He wants to meet. He didn't say why. There's no reason for me to feel anything until I know why. I learned that my emotions don't give me enough reliable information that I can act on. Here's the real problem with feelings as an authority. They're horizontally focused. They react to what's happening around you, in front of you, right now. They're not reacting to something that's true. They're made up. My self has to think, and then I'll decide how to feel about it after I get more information, which is the next authority, the self. Now, self, that's you, is more reliable than feelings. Self can actually think through something. Self asks, what are the known facts before deciding how to feel about it and then blindly reacting. But here's the catch. Self still looks horizontally for the answers. It looks to my left and my right. Feelings as the authority reacted to whatever's happening around you. It reacts first. Self does something a little smarter. It goes looking for someone else's opinion. It's still horizontal, just a more careful version of it. And looking horizontally means getting information from the people around you. I wanted to start lifting weights. I didn't know how, so I consulted Master YouTube so that I could learn. Turns out there is an overwhelming number of methods for something as simple as a bench press. One expert says do it like this, backed by studies. Another says that's outdated. Here's the new way, backed by studies. I guess I'm just supposed to pick a method since they're both backed by studies. You can look at the same thing happen with masks during the plague of 2020. Everybody asked, what are we supposed to do? First, the expert people said, mask, stop the spread. Then, don't bother with them, they don't work. Then, don't wear one mask, wear two. And all of that information was delivered with total confidence. Now, here's what I've come to believe about people. And I've been on the planet for 54 years. Are you ready? Nobody knows what the hell is going on, but they act like they do. That's the problem with self as your authority. Self doesn't generate its own facts. It borrows them from other selves, which are other people. Other people are biased. They're agenda driven, and they speak with a convincing amount of confidence. So why do we keep trusting ourselves and other selves anyway? I think it's because down deep, what self actually wants isn't the truth. What it wants is to be right. And you can be right and still be wrong. You just won't know until the next study comes along or some expert tells you. Or until somebody new posts a new video on YouTube. And finally, the third possible authority is God as the ultimate authority. Where does God information come from? That one's easy. The Bible. Written by men, inspired by God. The same God who created the entire universe, who designed the whole thing from start to finish. What's the purpose of that information? I think it's so we'd know the intent behind the design, and it also gives us some information about why things suck right now. And it's because we rejected the relationship by breaking the one thing, the one rule God asked us not to do. And as a result, God had to give us a list of ideas that would help us. I don't really look at them as rules. I look at them as a list of things that actually work in society based on original design. And it also explains in there what doesn't work. Like telling the truth works, and lying only causes problems. And don't look at another human with sexual desire unless it's your spouse, because if you do, it causes problems. And also, stay focused on God, because people are always going to let you down. The relationship with Him has to be primary, and the relationship with people secondary. That's the design. And people are still rejecting that relationship, which means we're still rejecting the things that work and still embracing the things that have never worked. They don't work now, and they won't work in the future. Here's what doesn't change with God as the authority. The information. What works and what doesn't work has never changed. Not once. The purpose of the information hasn't changed either. I think it's so we can live in peace and get along, and through that actually have a relationship with God. And let me tell you when this became really real to me. When I started studying all of the character words that are associated with martial arts, like courtesy, honesty, integrity, perseverance, self-control, responsibility, I noticed something. Every one of them was universally true. And I can remember thinking, what kind of world would this be if everybody actually studied those words and lived by those concepts? And then I read the Bible. Every single one of those concepts, or the concepts behind the words, were in there. The whole list of what works, and I arrived at it from a completely different way through studying martial arts, and I landed in the exact same place. It didn't make sense to me why people wouldn't just do those things until I thought about it a little longer. I mean, think about it. If a person is led by their emotions or depends on their self, their bias, their agenda, then right and wrong ends up depending on whatever that agenda serves. It's still horizontal. It's still about people, either yourself, because you're a people too, or the people around you. Feelings reacts to what's happening around them, horizontally focused. Self looks around at what everybody else thinks. It's horizontally focused also. God as your authority means that you don't look sideways at all. You only look up, vertically toward God. That's what vertically focused actually means. So, which one is your authority? Are you horizontally focused, or are you vertically focused? Whichever one you claim is the one that controls your learning, your discipline. Okay, this video is about discipline for the Christian, so let's assume that God is your highest authority. Here's my personal philosophy, and it's helped me to navigate this world. I look at it like there are two cultures. There's God culture, where you live in accordance with how He designed things, and there's human culture, where whatever feels good right now, whatever the group accepts, where right and wrong are decided moment to moment. And I want you to notice something. Back in the last section, two of those three authorities, feelings and self, both had you looking sideways. Only God as your authority has you looking up. That's not just true inside of you, it's true out here too. Which means when you feel pulled, it's really just one thing pulling you. Feelings and self both keep your eyes on human culture. God's the only one that points you somewhere else. I don't know about you, but that's always felt like being outnumbered before the fight ever starts. God culture demands that you don't compare yourself to anyone. You are uniquely made, you're just like everybody else, and no one else's life is the standard that you're measured against. When I was a kid and me and my brother would fight, I always thought Mom treated him different. I'd say, "What about him? What are you going to do to him?" And she'd say, "None of your business. You're both wonderfully unique, made in the image of God. I am going to deal with each one of you based on your uniqueness." But you'd only know if that's true if you actually read what he said, what the Bible says. And growing up in the church, hearing your mom quote scripture when you're in trouble, that's not the same as knowing the book yourself. So if you're going to call yourself a Christian, you got to read the book. Human culture doesn't have that. It has no fixed book, which means it has no fixed standard. Right now, this generation calls abortion a choice. Boys and girls sports and locker room, that's fairness. The difference between a boy and a girl, that's a matter of preference. It calls a judge excusing a violent crime because of someone's hard childhood. They call that justice. All of that is human culture stuff. But give it 20 years. The specifics will change. They always do. What won't change is that there's still no book for human culture that can hold a standard. So here's where this leaves you. You know what discipline actually means. You know there are 3 possible authorities fighting to run your test. You know there are 2 cultures pulling against each other, and they're never designed to coexist without friction. But here's the part I want you to sit with for a second. You're not just watching this battle from the sidelines. You are the prize. Whichever culture wins you is the one your authority actually belongs to. And whichever authority is really running your life, that's what decides which side wins you. You already know 2 of the 3 are always looking sideways. Now, look at the people around you. And almost any group, roughly a third of the people around you share your discipline or the authority that you learn from. A third believes something genuinely different, and a third just want to fit in. They're going to go wherever the loudest group is standing. 2 out of 3 looking sideways. Same ratio, just standing in front of you instead of inside you, which means the pressure isn't just coming from one direction. It's coming from inside you and outside you at the same time in the same shape. The only thing that keeps you looking up instead is discipline. From studying fighting for 40 years, I know that ultimately your capability is broken into 2 parts. The knowledge of what to do and how to do it, and the willingness to do it if you're ever actually attacked. Anything that you know but you're not willing to do is just trivia. Let's look at this spiritual battlefield the same way. Now, I said early, if you're going to claim to be a Christian, you got to read the instruction manual. If you claim to be in God culture, you got to know the Word. So let's say you read it, you study it, you agree with it, you go to church. So far, you're only building the knowledge part. Here's the actual progression from my framework that I teach. Your belief is, I believe in God. I believe He sent His Son who died for me on the cross and 3 days later rose from the dead and sits at the right hand of God. Then you build an identity around that, what it means to have an identity in Christ, and then you're going to claim it. Then there's the standards. You study how He operated and how He lived, and then there's discipline. Notice what that progression actually is. Belief to identity to standards to discipline. There's no room in that chain for anything sideways. It's one straight line oriented vertically from start to finish. That's where we are. Discipline. Discipline is where you get tested on what you claim to believe, who you claim to be aligned with, the standards you claim to hold. Now, you don't get to set the parameters of the test. God does. He's your ultimate authority, and He runs the test to see if the claims are real. Now, let me raise the stakes. Remember what Jesus actually did. He was innocent. He was beaten until his skin ripped off. He carried the crossbeam Himself to the place where they nailed Him through the hands and feet and stood it up for everybody to see. The people belonging to human culture mocked Him. They spit on Him. They ridiculed Him. He gave His life for you because He loves you. This is the man you're claiming to follow. Building this chain, the belief, the identity, the standards, all of it, that's its own discipline. Studying it and knowing it. But here's the difference between knowing it and understanding it. I've always broken wisdom into 2 parts. Knowledge is you're aware that something exists. Understanding is what happens because you've actually lived it. If you haven't lived it yet, you only know that it exists. That's all you actually have. But knowing it isn't the same as being tested on it. That one's next. And let's be clear on what I mean by test. It's not a quiz. It's a situation that shows up in your life, uninvited, that you weren't expecting. And it doesn't matter whose fault it is. Fault is completely irrelevant. What matters is you now have to navigate it. And navigating it means answering one question in real time. Are you going to look up or are you going to look sideways? And are you going to give in to how you feel? Are you going to white knuckle your way through it on your own? That's the test. It's the experiment that gives you the answer to something you didn't really ask for. Here's the thing about tests that you didn't choose. You watch the news, horrible things happen far away. You pray for the people who are involved. you feel like a good Christian. It's easy to hold your claims when the test is happening to somebody else. That's the difference between knowledge and understanding. Knowledge holds up fine when the test is happening to somebody else. Understanding only shows up when it's happening to you. The willingness to live what you know to do is a completely different discipline. It only shows up when a test arrives uninvited, maybe from somebody you love in a moment you didn't pick. And here's what that may look like, or actually looks like. Let's say your mom sits you down and says, your father and I are getting a divorce. You didn't choose this test. Life chose it for you. The thoughts flood in. Christmas is going to change. Thanksgiving's going to change. The family is breaking apart. You want to know who did that. You want someone to blame. Well, now what are you going to do? Are you going to yell? Are you going to run? Are you going to shun both parents? I don't want anything to do with either one of them. Are you going to pick a side? Or do you see it for what it actually is? That mom and dad are just people. And people do people things. They're not perfect. Are you going to see that your own flesh put them on a pedestal as if they were idols? What they've done is between them and God. You have nothing to do with it. Yes, it's going to hurt. There's going to be some adjustment. But you have your own Rubik's Cube that you have to work out, your own life. Or will you tell them what you think from a position of truth and love? Pray for them. And if it gets toxic, if you get pulled into the middle of it, you can always walk away, but keep your relationship with God intact. For me, I'm going to look up no matter what. And here's another one. This is a real story, similar to the first, but just an example of a test life throws at you. Let's say you've had a friend for 20 years. You were with her when the kids were born. Your family was there when her kids were born. All the kids grew up together. One day, your friend tells you that her daughter, that you've known her whole life, now wants to be called Stan, that she's a boy. Now, the Bible says not supposed to lie. So what are you going to do? Do you walk away from a 20-year relationship because you won't lie? Do you go along with the lie to keep the friendship? Or do you say, I can't follow you down this path? What if your friend pushes it harder, tells you the Bible isn't accurate? It's been translated and retranslated like the telephone game, and that it doesn't say what you think it says, and it doesn't mean what you think it means. What do you do then? Are you going to look up? Are you going to look sideways? Now, both of those moments are horrible, and both of them are horizontal and belong firmly in human culture. So which way are you going to look? You're going to look horizontally or vertically? Here's how I have actually handled both. One happened to me, the other happened close enough to me that I had to respond to it as well. Here's what I said. I work for God. I don't work for you. He got the hell beat out of him. While he was naked, he carried his own cross. He was nailed to a tree. He was stabbed in the side. He was mocked. He was spit on. You've done none of that for me. Now, I love you, and I'm sorry that you're going through this, but I can't follow you down this path. You're asking me to do stuff that I can't do. That's the difference between knowing something and being willing to do what you know to do. So here's what discipline for a Christian actually is. It's not gritting your teeth. It's not suffering through a list of rules. It's being open to whatever comes your way so you can find out whether you're actually capable of following Christ. Not just knowing the material, but doing it. That whole chain, belief, identity, standards, discipline, isn't a lesson plan. It's a test of one thing. Can you keep looking up? Everything I walked you through earlier, that was just knowledge, awareness that something exists. The belief, the identity, the standards. Even knowing the chain is supposed to run straight up vertically. The two tests I just told you about, that's when it becomes understanding. It's lived. It's not just, you're not just aware of it. You're going through it. When something horizontal hits you, a person, an environment, something you love, somebody you love asking you to look away from something you know, your job doesn't change. Tell the truth. Rooted in the original design, not your opinion of the moment. Telling a hard truth, even when it costs you, even when it's painful to say or hear it, that's not cruelty. That is love. So, stand firm, walk away if you have to. Keep the line purely vertical, and through all of it, don't judge the other person. Judge the behavior. You're not there to render a verdict on them. Besides, you're not qualified to be a judge over another person. You're there to be an example of the commitment. Nothing more. That's it. That's the whole thing. And I'm not telling you all of this because I've got it all figured out. I still fail all the time with smaller versions of both of those tests. But I know who I work for. And when the test comes, and it will, it always does, that's the only thing that's ever actually held for me. Not my willpower or my feelings, just Him. That's discipline for a follower of Christ. It's a direct line, straight up. I forgot one more thing. If you like this video, if you found any nuggets of information in there that you could actually use that may help you, leave some comments. Tell me what you thought. Share it with some friends. And please consider subscribing. I am just getting started with my information. I am laying the foundation so that I can teach the character stuff that's associated with martial arts. I'll see you next time.